He says, I'm still curious to hear your guys' scouting report on Jeudy so far this year. Coaching and QB play aside, do you think he was worth the top 15 pick based off the first 6 games? Zach, you go ahead and start, and then I'll riff off. I'll provide my answer.
It's so tough to judge any prospect based on 6 games, and a receiver in a young offense when he's forced to play a bigger role than he was expecting to play or the Broncos wanted him to play coming out of the gates. Whether he was better than, CeeDee Lamb, or if the Broncos should have moved up for Henry Ruggs, let's say, that's too premature. All these evaluations are premature. I like a lot of what I've seen from him, and I'm not even, except for the drops, which were mental errors that can be corrected, I'm not chalking his inefficiency or lack of production up to him predominantly. That's on Locke and the play calling. It's up to Shurmur, like I said, to get the ball in his hands and let him use what he does best at Alabama. He wasn't a speedster. He's a guy who can make moves in the Marvin Harrison, Amari Cooper mold. Let him be that. Let's not turn him into Tyreek Hill. You have your Tyreek Hill and KJ Hamler. So if a grade, I would probably be B-. I think that's a fair grade for Jerry Jeudy. He's not been perfect, but I think the Broncos made the right call investing in the offense and building around a young quarterback with a big arm.
Jerry Jeudy, I think, first and foremost, the fact that the Broncos had to cycle through 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 games did him no favors, and that's not to make an excuse for him. But that combined with the fact that he had the rib injury and then he has a little shoulder that he's been nursing.
Sure.
And then the drops. I mean, if you're scouting Jerry Jeudy, I think what you do as an opponent is you just try and jam him up at the line of scrimmage, because if you allow him a clean get off the line, that route running prowess is going to create separation. And you would think, as the opponent, that the quarterback would be wise enough to feed him and to recognize, hey, Jerry Jeudy is getting open way more often than he's not. He's getting open probably 7 out of 10 routes. He's open. So why, Drew Lock, are you not looking Jerry Judy's way? What are you waiting for? And so then I think it comes back to Pat Shurmur in terms of how do we emphasize to Drew to look for Jeudy in the progression? How do we maybe work Judy's routes into more early on in the progression? 1, 2, 1, 2. Because even if Drew Lock is only going through 1 or 2 reads before he uncorks, get Jeudy early in that progression. It really has felt more like, especially the last couple of games, and I think Albert O returning to the field had a lot to do with it, but Locke has been making up his mind too early before the snap even happens of where he's going to go with the ball, and it needs to go back to, he needs to start focusing on Jerry Jeudy more. Look, Jeudy became, I can't remember the statistical distinction now off the top of my head, Zach, but it was something the first 4 games for him to get over 50 yards receiving as a rookie. He was up there in terms of, rarefied air. Not many rookie wide receivers in recent history of the NFL have done that. CeeDee Lamb got up there with him. And so to say, going back to the whole, has he been worth the top 15 pick? Yeah, there's nothing I've seen from Jeudy up to this point that tells me he wasn't. I hate the drops. And the worst thing about Judy's drops up to this point, Zach, that really stick in my craw is that they've all been in key moments. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, part of what's perhaps interrupted the chemistry that he could and should have with Locke up to this point is, 2 third down drops in the season opener with Locke. The drop touchdown when Locke returns against the Patriots goes right through his arms. I mean, you got to catch that. And so I think, they just need more reps together, more time on task, and that's eventually going to come back. And the Broncos are going to be fine. Jerry Judy's going to be fine. There's nothing I've seen up to this point that makes me doubt the pick.
Yeah, it's on him to rectify the drops. It's on Drew Lock to rectify finding him when he's open. But it's also on, again, Pat Shurmur to not only call the plays at the right time, but also design the plays, Chad. The underneath routes, the slant routes, the crossing routes. That is where he's going to find his success at this level, Jerry Jeudy. Not these deep posts, not these deep 9 routes. That's why it's on coaching. So it's not it's not one factor. There's 3 or 4 factors at play constantly in why the Broncos offense is so, I would say, broken right now.